She asked if she could come and borrow a cookbook. Elizabeth showed up, and all of a sudden she started rolling on the floor and said, oh God, my stomach. She needs to get to the emergency room. Could you possibly take us? Wendy said, no, you turn here. And it took me on a country road that Wendy got out of the back seat, yanked the door open, and she said, you give me your car and your purse.
This is one of the more deplorable crimes I've seen in a while, but you don't need me to tell you about it. MeeMaw will tell you everything you need to know, and MeeMaw has more credibility than everyone else I watched today, combined. This isn't her first rodeo, either. She gave a victim impact statement at the sentencing of the defendant's accomplice, one Wendy Sincere Scott, a couple of months ago. This girl is about to learn her sentence, knowing that Judge Ricke already dropped 23 years on her accomplice. Let's roll, nerds.
All right. We will go on the record, the Zoom record. Case is entitled State of Kansas versus Elizabeth Rosa Rogers. This matter does regularly come back before the court this date for sentence. In anticipation of sentence, the court has ordered a pre-sentence investigation report. The court has received the same. I trust the counsel for the state and the defendant have received a copy. And before proceeding any further, is there any objection to the criminal history as set forth, which does indicate a criminal history score I as in ice? Ms. Norris?
No objection, Your Honor.
And Mr. De Hoyos?
No objection, Your Honor.
Court finds no objection to the criminal history as set forth. Therefore, it does become part of the basis for sentence herein. Before proceeding to sentence, the court will listen to recommendations from respective counsel as to appropriate sentence, beginning with the state and Ms. Norris.
Your Honor, there is a motion to depart that was filed by Mr. Oyos, and then also the victim is present and will want to address the court, and possibly one of her family members may also want to address the court.
Thank you, Ms. Norris. The court will proceed with the departure motion by the state, by the defense, and Mr. Oyos.
So, Judge, in this matter, I have filed a departure motion for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the incredible youth of my client. At this time, she's 19 years old. And Judge, I'm 37. I can tell you 18 years ago when I was 19, I was making terrible mistakes too. And if somebody hadn't taken mercy on me, I would not have become the criminal defense lawyer I am today. So I think sometimes people her age have to bounce off a rock bottom, but should not be left there. Instilling a probation agreement today, or a probation sentence today, allows you to demonstrate to her the power this court has over her, because she just spent the last 8 months in custody. She understands any mishap on probation means she's looking at substantial prison time, and she's only 19. Now, in this matter, there was a co-defendant. That co-defendant was in her 40s, and that co-defendant has a significant criminal history, the kind of which that Ms. Rogers has no business getting anywhere near. But by putting her faith in Ms. Scott, Ms. Rogers ended up in a terrible place in a terrible way. And Judge, for all these reasons, and not given just her lack of criminal history, lack of a juvenile record, her age and immaturity, and the fact that there was a co-defendant who played a significant role in the matter, I think you have a young woman here who can learn if given the opportunity. But we have to make that decision today. So, Judge, I'm imploring you to issue a probation sentence in this matter. That probation be 36 months with whatever conditions the court believes appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. De Hoyos. And victim statement by individual. And Ms. Norris, do you know the victim's name?
Yes, Your Honor. That's Ms. Zilke, Beverly Zilke, on the screen under, looks like Gill or Gilly.
And the court would refer the court to being addressed by Beverly Zilke. Beverly Zilke.
Yes, say it.
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'll start from the beginning of that day. Uh, uh, she called me because she lived down the hall from where I live in the same apartment building. And she asked if she could come and borrow a cookbook. And I said yes. And so I thought I was waiting for her to come to my house, which was just down the hall. And the door knock came, and I thought, oh, there she is. But it was a friend of hers, her friend, and she said, "Is she here yet?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Could I come in and wait?" She said she would be here, and I said, "Well, okay." And she came in and sat in the living room, and about 5 minutes later, I can't even, her name is Elizabeth, right? Elizabeth showed up, and I took her in the back room where I had a bunch of I have a collection of cookbooks, so she sat down and we started looking. Me and her friend went in the living room and sit and talked, and then her friend, and Wendy, her name was Wendy, her friend, and she said, "Let's go back and see what she's doing," or "I'm going back and see what she was doing." I said, "Okay." So she went back, and I waited about a few minutes, and I thought, I'm going back there too. I went back there. I took a hold of the door, and it was locked. And I thought, well, what's this? And I went and reached the door again, and it was unlocked. So they heard me turn the lock and unlocked it. I went in, and Elizabeth was looking at the cookbooks and pointing out different recipes and talking. And all of a sudden, she started rolling on the floor and saying, oh God, my stomach, oh." And Wendy said, "Oh, she's been to the hospital before for this. She needs to get to the emergency room. Could you possibly take us?" And I said, well, okay. I'm babysitting my daughter's dog because my daughter went on a cruise, and I'll take her with me." And they said, "That's okay." So we all walked down and got in my car, which was a brand new car, and it still had the paper tag on the back. I hadn't even had a chance to get a car tag. And we started, and I didn't know where what emergency room they were headed for. So I said, "You'll have to guide me. I don't know where to go." And they said, "That's okay. We'll do that." And we got on the highway, went to Kellogg, went down, and there's a little town just outside, way east of Wichita, Andover. And I thought that's where we were going, to an emergency room there. And there's two stoplights before you hit one, and there's a filling station across the street. And then you go up the next one and you hit Andover. And I was going to go straight on, and Wendy said, no, you turn here on the first turn. And it took me on a country road, and we drove and drove and drove on the country road. And I said, "Well, where is this place? Where is it at?" And she said, "It isn't too much further." And we drove and drove, and I had taken my daughter's little dog with me, and she was standing, she had her little feet on my leg and had her little paws on the window looking out. And then all of a sudden we kept driving, and I just stopped the car in the middle of the country road. And I said, "We've been on the highway, we've been driving a long, long time. You told me this wasn't very far. We've gone a long way. How much further is this place?" And at that point that Wendy got out of the back seat and she yanked the door open and she said, you give me your car and your purse. And I said, no, I won't do that. That's my car. It's my car. And it was brand new. It still had the paper tag on it. And I had my purse. And she said, give it to me. And I said, no, I won't do that. It's my car, my purse. She started pulling on my arm and she had long fingernails. And I kept yanking my arm, trying to get it away. And Elizabeth was shoving on my back to shove me out, and the other girl was pulling my arm to pull me out of the car. And I had my hand on the steering wheel, and my feet was braced on the floor, trying to stay in the car. And they kept shoving and pushing, and both of them. One was pulling my arm, and Elizabeth was shoving on me on my back, trying to shove me out. And I won for a long time, but finally I wore out because I am 87 years old. And they threw me in the dirt on the country road, in the dirt, and sped off in my car, which it was a new car. I still had the paper tag on it. And I didn't know where Chloe was, my daughter's dog. And I kept looking and looking, and I finally walked down the country road and I went to a farmhouse. There was no one home. So I kept walking down the road to the next farmhouse, and there was a man there, and he said, oh, and I said, could I please borrow your phone? My car and my purse was stolen, and I was thrown out of my car on the country road. And I said, I need help. I need to have the police come. And so he said, oh my goodness. And he went in and called the police, the ambulance, the fire truck, I don't remember what all showed up. The sheriff, the policeman, they all showed up at this farmhouse. And they wanted to know if I wanted to go to the hospital. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to find my daughter's dog because I'm scared. They took my daughter's dog. I don't know if she got out of the car or not. And I said, and my purse and my car is brand new. They took my car. And so anyway, the police started looking for the dog to see if it was, because I didn't know if they took my dog or not, the dog. And then the sheriff, some of the others then finally left, the ambulance and all of the other things, the police and and the sheriff said, well, why don't we get in the car and we'll go to my station. And I said, that's fine. So I got in the car with him and went there, and we were there till early hours in the morning. And I don't remember, he had 5 or 6 TVs with all the police in the city were looking for my car. And they were making reports on all of those 5 TVs that he had in his office. And he finally said, you know what, we're not going to find that tonight. Why don't I take you home? And I said, okay. And that was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning when he finally said that. And this happened at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when they did all of this. And I was with him till 3 o'clock in the morning. And I said, okay, because I'm so tired and haven't eaten, and I need to get home. And so we got ready and was at the door and just opening the door to go out into my car, into his car, the sheriff. And he got another beep and yelling on the TVs, he had 5 TVs in that other room that were, police were reporting every time they saw a Nissan car like mine. And he said, oh, there's let's run back. I've got to get this. And he ran back and he says, they found her. They found the car. He said, we'll get in the car and we're going to go to where it's located. They've located it and the police are there now. And I said, oh, good. So I went with him. I drove with him, rode with him to the place which they had picked up Wendy. And I sat in the car like 2 hours or something while they were taking pictures and doing all kinds of stuff. And then he took me home and they said they had found the car and I did forget to say, when I was there, that Wendy threatened, she held her purse up in the air and she said, do you see my purse? And I said, yes. And she said, well, I have a gun in it. I have used it before and I'm not afraid to use it again, and I will. And well, then they threw me out in the dirt and took me off in my car. And so anyway, then he finally took me home about 6 o'clock in the morning, because it took all that time, whatever they did at that house, when they picked up Wendy with my car at that point. Oh, I don't know what to say now. That's what happened. I'm telling you what happened.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Zilke, the court would be interested in your perspective on whether the defendant, Ms. Rogers, whether the court should grant the motion for probation, whether you're advocating for a prison sentence. How do you wish for the court to dispose of Ms. Rogers?
I think that she deserves to go to prison because I was very good to her. I was very kind to her. I didn't really know her, but she lived down the hall from me, and she did all of them horrible things. I never did anything at all. I said hi when I saw her, because we both had cars in the parking lot. I saw her when I'd go out and get in the car, and I'd always say hi. I mean, I was very nice to her. It was never not nice. I've never done anything like that in my entire life. I've never been in a police situation in my life, and I'm 87 years old.
Thank you, Ms. Zilke. And further recommendations as to sentence and defendant's departure motion by the state, Ms. North?
Your Honor, just real quickly, is there a member of?
Yes, Wendy wants to, yes.
Yes, Wendy wanted to speak.
Okay.
Excuse me, and there's another statement for the victim to be made. And ma'am, if you could please give your name and relationship, if any, to Miss Zilke.
My name is Wendy K. Dwyer. She is my Aunt Beverly. I'm her niece.
Thank
And
you.
let me start.
Please proceed.
First of all, I want to ask Elizabeth, what the hell were you thinking that day to take advantage and threaten an elderly 87-year-old lady? I need you, Elizabeth Rosa Rogers, to understand
Judge,
how
I have to
horrific.
intervene here. Judge, it is not proper for anybody to address my client except me and the court. By law, the witness is allowed to address
I
the
did it
court.
with Wendy.
Judge, forgive me. Judge, I'm asking that direct questions to my client
I'm not
be
asking
prohibited.
questions. Oh, okay. That was a statement question.
The court does sustain the objection by Mr. De Hoyos on behalf of the defendant herein, his client. The court would ask that you just address the court, please. And once again, could I get your name? It's Wendy and the last
Wire,
name.
Dwire.
Thank you, Ms. Dwyer. Please proceed.
Okay, I need her, Elizabeth Rosa Rogers, to understand how horrific the crime her and her friend Wendy Sincere Scott committed really was. I do believe you was the mastermind behind the whole plan, and then you included your friend Wendy. I feel this because you had recently, days before, befriended Beverly when you were crying about losing custody of your baby for certain reasons, and you asked her about cookbooks. For some reason, you sent Wendy to her door first, and my aunt had never met Wendy prior to this incident. Then a short time later, you showed up to the door and went into the room with the books and closed the door.
Please
Leaving
proceed, Ms. Dwyer. Please proceed a little bit more slowly in
Okay.
case the matter would need to be transcribed at a later date. So
Okay.
please
I'll start that.
proceed just
Okay,
a little
I'll start
bit
that
more
paragraph
slowly.
over. Okay. I
Thank
do
you.
believe you was the mastermind behind this whole plan, and then you included your friend Wendy. I feel this because she had recently, days prior, befriended Beverly when Elizabeth was crying about losing the custody of her baby for reasons, and then asked her about cookbooks. For some reason, she sent Wendy to her door first, and my Aunt Bev had never met Wendy prior to this incident. Then, a short time later, Elizabeth showed up to the door and went into the room with the books and closed the door, leaving Wendy with Beverly. Then eventually, Wendy got up and went into the room with Elizabeth, and also shut the door. When Aunt Bev decided to see what they were doing, the door was locked and then instantly became unlocked. After Beverly entered, Elizabeth was the one who faked the horrible stomach cramps and said she needed medical attention and needed a ride. She also stated her insurance was only good at one medical facility in Andover, Augusta. I'm not sure. This put the three of them in the car, including Chloe, her daughter's dog, whom she was dog sitting for. This is where Elizabeth's plan included stealing her car and purse. She was threatened and injured while being pushed and pulled and shoved out of her car onto a gravel dirt country road. She lay there watching as her car, her purse, and her grand dog baby, whom she loves, took off without her. Then you all went joyriding with boyfriends and shopped using her credit cards. The fear and trauma this has caused on my aunt is horrible. She has lost all trust in people and now lives her life in fear. What you and your friend did shows your character and who you are as a person, which is downright cold with no feelings towards others. I hope you take this time away to really reflect on your life and all the lives you have hurt along the way. I also hope your grandma, your mom, your daughter, aunt, or whomever you may care about never has to go through something this scary, traumatizing that my aunt had to live through and continues to deal with every day. Judge, her partner Wendy received 23 years, and I don't know if she should get that much time, but she definitely deserves time. Time enough she really thinks and feels what she did was wrong and she needs to change her life and maybe work on getting her child back.
Thank you, Ms. Dwyer. Further
Yes,
victim statements. Any further victim statements
No.
that you may know about from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Ms.
Thank you.
Norris?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. And recommendation as to sentence from the state, Ms. Norris?
Your Honor, state recommends on count one, the kidnapping, 55 months in the Department of Corrections. Defendant would be able to earn up to 15% good time credit and will be subject to 36 months post-release. And Your Honor, this is a registration required offense. And Your Honor, regarding count three, 31 months in the Department of Corrections for mistreatment of a dependent adult. And on count four, criminal threat, 5 months in the Department of Corrections. In keeping with the plea agreement, state recommend that those counts run concurrent and that the court follow the presumption of prison. Defendant has earned 247 days of jail time credit as of this date. Ask the court assess the cost of the action to the defendant. Court will need to address court-appointed attorney's fees and the bid's application fee. And Your Honor, there is restitution, joint and several with the co-defendant of $1,000. And that relates to charges made on the cards, etc. And Your Honor, the co-defendant was ordered to pay that in her case in front of Judge Ricke. And Your Honor, regarding the motion to depart, state is not agreeing and actually it opposes the request that counsel makes on behalf of the defendant. Your Honor, the defendant doesn't have any criminal history, but these crimes, the kidnapping, mistreatment, and criminal threat are all very serious. All are person crimes. And as Ms. Zilke already said to the court, she's 87 years old. These were very, this is a very calculated situation. It was planned. It was executed. She was injured in the process. Your Honor, I see no substantial and compelling reasons to depart for these types of crimes. And yeah, it is unfortunate that she really doesn't have any history and that she is so young, but she made these decisions. She made these choices, and Your Honor, she should be held accountable. And we would ask the court deny the motion to depart to probation and that the court send the defendant to the presumptive sentence of at least 55 months in the Department of Corrections. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norris. And recommendation as to sentence, Mr. De Hoyos.
So, Your Honor, first of all, let me express my sincerest condolences to the victim and to her family. I firmly agree with them. Nobody should have to go through what they endured, and I pray that nobody ever does. That being said, Judge, if you told me that you sent somebody to prison for kidnapping and mistreatment of an elder person, I think everybody on God's green earth would tell you they're not surprised. But if I told you that the state paid for an education and that education was 4 years prison as opposed to 4 years at a state university, I think all of us would be looking at each other going, what are you talking about? $33,000 a year is what it costs to keep somebody in custody. So if the state gets what they want, it's $130,000 being spent to house Miss Rogers. Now, we do have to have a cause and effect on her. We do have to punish her so that she understands our society has limits and has limitations. And I can appreciate why nobody else besides me, Miss Rogers, might be asking for her to go to probation. If the court is going to insist on a prison time, we should do something that is appropriate and perhaps even proportional to how long this child has been alive. To that end, Judge, I'd ask that if you're not going to consider probation for Miss Rogers, then perhaps you should consider half of the called for number at 55 down to what would that be? 27 months. That's still 2 years plus of prison time that Ms. Rogers gets. It's 10%
And he wants time served.
of her
No.
life right now.
3 months.
And he's playing.
The victims are not unmuted. There you go. Sorry, Judge. That's still 10% of this young woman's life. It will provide a substantial compelling reason not to ever find yourself in this kind of trouble again. But I don't think that we gain anything with 4 years against Ms. Rogers, as opposed to putting her, if necessary, in prison for long enough for the message to stick, but not long enough to ruin her life.
Thank you, Mr. De Hoyos. And Ms. Rogers, prior to the court pronouncing judgment and sentence upon you, is there anything you would like to state in mitigation of your sentence?
I would just like to say that I do apologize to Miss Zelke about everything that happened, and it honestly was not a planned thing. I didn't know that it was going to happen, and I should have done more to help you, and I apologize that I didn't. I'm really sorry about, just my choices as a person and as a human being, because I made poor choices, and I'm sorry. I just hope that you accept my apology and hope that you know that I am a good person, and I don't think that I deserve probation. I think that I do deserve to go to prison, because what happened was just horrible. And if it happened to my grandma, I would feel the same way. And I would feel like, that person that did it to my grandma would deserve to go to prison for the rest of their life. Even though I don't think I deserve that. I'm 19 years old, and I made a bad decision, and I understand that, and I understand that there's repercussions to that decision. And I just hope that you guys have mercy on me, please.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Do you know of any reason why the court should not pronounce judgment and sentence upon you here today?
No.
And Mr. De Hoyos?
I have no known reason, Judge.
Ms. Rogers, it is the order, judgment, and decree of this court that you're hereby sentenced to the care, custody, and control of the Secretary of Corrections, State of Kansas, to serve 55 months in prison. This is as to count 1, kidnapping to facilitate flight or commission of a crime, severity level 3, person felony. Count 3, the court sentences you for mistreatment of dependent adult or elder person to 31 months in prison. On count 4, criminal threat, severity level 9, person felony, court sentences you to 5 months in prison. The court does run those sentences concurrent, all at the same time. Subsequently, the court has taken into consideration the departure motion that has been filed on your behalf in the case and argued by Mr. De Hoyos here today. The court does overrule and deny the same. The court does advise you that this is a registration offense, and you do need to be in compliance with that registration. The court does run, once again, all these sentences concurrent to each other at the same time. It would appear to the court that there have been some considerations given to you in regards to the use of mitigated numbers in your sentencing. The standard sentence herein would have been 59 months, and the mitigated sentence is 55 months. And that's what was recommended. That's what is adopted by the court here today. Also, the state could very well have requested the court to run your sentences consecutive to each other, which would have added approximately 36 months on top of the 55 or whatever the base sentence would be. That did not happen. This was concurrent sentencing herein. The court does order restitution in the sum. I believe that this is correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. $1,000 in restitution for use of credit cards.
Correct, Your Honor.
Thank you. And once again, the court is finding that there have not been substantial and compelling reasons presented to the court to grant your departure motion. Subsequently, pursuant to KSA 22-3608C, the court does advise you that you shall have 14 days after the judgment of the district court to appeal your sentence. The court advises you pursuant to KSA 21-4619G of any expungement rights you may have. And the court does advise you of your prohibition of possession of any firearms. And once again, the court does notify you of your duty to register herein. Any other matters to come before the court? Ms. Norris?
Your Honor, I assume that you're waiving attorney and bids fees.
The court finds that Ms. Rogers, due to her incarceration, will not have the financial wherewithal for reimbursement of court-appointed legal fees nor the bids application fee. Any other matters, Ms. Norris?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
And Mr. De Hoyos?
No, Your Honor, thank you for the court's time.
Your Honor, because there's restitution, the court has to set basically a payment plan, or you can also order that they be immediately due, but the court does need to make some sort of a ruling regarding repayment.
That's fine. There's going to be a substantial, there's jail time credit at 247 days. So that's about, I think, 8-9 months. I think it'd be appropriate to repay this at $50 per month. $50 will be the order of the court for reimbursement of restitution for the $1,000 that was wrongfully used as from the victim's credit cards.
And Your Honor orders that joint and several with the co-defendant.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Rogers, good luck to you. It would appear to me that the state, your counsel, have negotiated a plea herein, presented the same to the court. It appears to be a reasonable sentence based on what occurred. I wish you well, and I hope that your life does improve from this, what it must be a very low point. There being nothing further to come before the court is in recess.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoy watching this content, please like and subscribe. It helps new channels like this one gain exposure. There is a lot more good court to come, so if you like what you saw, tell your friends. If you didn't, tell me, and let me know what you'd like to see and how I can improve. Thanks.